This program is made possible in part by Nebraskans for Public Television. Consider this, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bale Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hi, and welcome back to UNO. It's really kind of a pleasure. Well, it's always a pleasure to do this show, but it's even more so a pleasure to talk about the subject we're going to talk about today. And that's a really cool, that's a highly technical term, cool designation for the Peter Kiewit Institute here at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Let me introduce my guests first for you. Blaine Burham, PhD, is with us today. He is the Executive Director of the Nebraska University Consortium on Information Assurance.
Outstanding.
I'm close, all right?
You got it right on. In one.
Oh, good.
This is good.
That's good. Which is involved with the College of Information Science and Technology.
That's right.
And also with us today is a student that is very familiar with the entire part of the South Campus, as we like to call it here at UNO, the old Exarban property that houses the Peter Kiewit Institute and has a dorm out there for the students. Sophie Engel is in her 4th year as a Scott Scholar, a Walter Scott Scholar, and we welcome you both today. And, you know, since we're dealing with something technical, I don't even trust myself. I feel very humbled when we talk about high tech, because I can turn the computer on and off. But we're talking about a special designation by the National Security Agency that puts UNO in standing with some really elite colleges and universities.
That's right.
And that really makes you one of the leading edge, cutting edge, if you aren't already, programs to make sure that our internet's secure.
That's right, Carol. That is right. Some time ago, the National Security Agency recognized the need for technical professionals that had a comprehensive understanding of information assurance, information security, information assurance.
That's the operative word, information assurance.
The buzzword today, and set about crafting academic programs in selected colleges and universities. And when those programs developed sufficiently to maturity, they started creating a scheme by which they could be recognized, because they needed to provide a context that could be interpreted and understood by the rest of government, and by and large the consumers of the students, the eventual employers of the students, to realize that these students were something special and that they knew things that were special.
And so they started designating these centers
of
excellence.
Centers of academic excellence.
And
right.
you still have a few hoops to jump through.
We do?
Or do you?
No, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
Yeah, we are one.
You be one.
We be one.
And you're in some pretty good company.
Oh yeah. I honestly didn't bother to check the order in the rounds, but the
Carnegie Mellon was at the top of the one
Naval
I saw.
Postgraduate School, Purdue, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, University of Tulsa, University of California, Davis, Stanford, to name a few.
I'm going to talk to Sophie a little bit, and we're going to get back to her again as to what this really means to you as a student. Mm-hmm. But you knew you were attending something pretty good when you were able to come to the Peter Kiewit Institute, mm-hmm. when it pretty much started. Mm-hmm. Now, in information science and technology, which still is just like mystery to me, but you've been working very hard. You're one of their top students. What does this designation mean to you as a student who it's actually very valuable to you, isn't it?
Well, right.
In many ways,
I've
not just money.
How wonderful this program is, and how it's growing so much and it's going so far. And now the Peter Kiewit Institute and the college is going to be getting the recognition that they deserve for their quality program, which means a lot to me, because then I can walk away from here very proud, and other people will also recognize the kind of program that we have here.
And Blaine, I mean, not the Institute, but you built this quality assurance or this information assurance, security assurance, whatever program from the ground up. And you had done this before, so you came as a pretty well-known and in-demand commodity to the university a couple years ago.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've had a little background and experience doing this.
The NSA, working with the NSA for 11 years would be.
Yeah, that helped. I had an opportunity for 20 months to get one of these started at Georgia Tech, and they're doing quite well. When I was at the agency, it became very clear that the agency needed to do something proactive to engage colleges and universities to help build the kind of employee that it needed. The market demand for computer science was creating such just a raging competition for these people, and we needed something special. So we started about building these programs in the colleges and universities. I believe the first one was the one that I got started out at the Naval Postgraduate School about, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. And Dr. Cynthia Irvine is the lead executive director of that program. She's done a masterful job, truly a masterful job. And I've enjoyed working with Cynthia, and basically, without making too big a story out of it, effectively cloning that program at Georgia Tech and here.
No point in reinventing a good wheel.
It's a great wheel. It is a great wheel. So it's a good model to follow.
I don't know if people realize, I think they have since 9/11. There's been, huge headlines about the lack, just from the government point of view, forget a corporate point of view, but from a federal and local government security point of view, there's been a lot about how underpersoned we were as a government, let alone the need for all these high-tech people in corporate America. And actually, national security has to do with corporate America. We saw what happened to our national security by wiping out, really a small chunk of our economy for a while, but just the ripple effect.
That's
so
right.
This, I guess, national security is an overall
national
umbrella.
Security is not something that just happens inside the Washington Beltway. National security means that you can go to sleep at night and be reasonably comfortable and reasonably confident that the culture and the world and the environment in which you live will sort of be there in the morning. That's part of, the Constitution does provide, or charge government with providing for the common defense, and this is a kind of that. I guess what's happened as a consequence of the terrorist attack is we've taken a moment to look around and recognize that we were accepting sloppy and accepting sloppy as kind of in terms of our security posture as a way of life. And we pride ourselves on a free and open culture, and we're going to have to, I think, engage in a national debate about what that really means in respect to a world that is not necessarily always benign.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. And where the computer network, the worldwide network is concerned, and the ability for invaders, you don't have to be in a plane with a bunch of people and take it over. We know, and you've known for a long time, and Sophie, you work in a laboratory that's part of this program that really tries to understand, prevent, intercept invaders that can not only invade government security, but huge corporations, our privacy, just all kinds of things. Isn't that right?
Right. It's been like a huge concern, especially in corporations and that kind of thing. You have money problems. There's only so much money you can put aside for different things, but security is a huge one. You have to protect your data. You have to protect people's personal data, and there's just so many places that you can be attacked from. It's just it's a huge concern, a very big issue.
Now, corporations and the FBI here, people have been making use of your laboratory and your program for some time now. So you've really been able to prove yourself as that you've put together a good program, that the students are good, the caliber of the people that we have working here. How have we sort of evidenced that to the greater community so far?
We've had the opportunity to show what we do and show off our students, as it were, to a variety of folks, to include some of the command authority at Stratcom, to include the Deputy Director of the National Security Agency when he was here, Mr. Mike Jacobs, to include several high-ranking FBI officials and the like. And I was trying to, I think it was the commander of the Army Corps of Engineers specifically, but also, for example, we have coming up in Omaha the 29th annual conference called Infotech. This is where Omaha and the region sort of comes out and does the conference for all the IT professionals. Well, this year the theme of Infotech is information assurance, and I believe we have 7 or 8 students giving presentations there.
Actually, presenters on
Yeah.
sort of on par
Yeah.
with everybody else.
Absolutely on par with everyone else. Sophie and Tim Sewell and Megan Benoit and Dan DeVries and Nate. Who else?
Sean.
Sean Whalen. Yeah. On par. Quality stuff.
I guess when I was here and I was just sort of a dorky student going through the process of trying to find their way in life and figure out what I wanted to be and everything, the maturity level of the students, and I mean, of course it's different, everyone here on campus is generally more mature than I was when I was 19, 20, but the maturity level of the students that I have seen in my limited exposure to the Peter Kiewit Institute is incredible, and I want to compliment you, Sophie, having interviewed you before. But I guess you're not surprised.
Well, these kids are awesome. I guess that's one of the things that was really one of the compelling considerations for me to come here, is that through the Walter Scott Scholarship, he's been able to galvanize a very high caliber student. We have about 150 odd Scott Scholars, but it's not just the Scott Scholars. There are other scholars that go with that.
And as I understand it, and this is a little bit of backtracking so that people that haven't been following, I mean, I think, the Peter Kiewit Institute has garnered big headlines around here, and we know that it's out there, but Walter Scott's vision and the good follow-through that he and others, Winnie Callahan and then the more scientific technical minds that put this together, were able to create something in a short period of time that isn't even duplicated in institutions that have been doing this for years and years and years.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
And that's pretty phenomenal.
You bet.
In this day and age, isn't it?
Yeah.
And garners top students from all over the country, not just locally.
Oh yeah, this is the rate at which this was accomplished is truly a benchmark for everyone else. This will be something that will be hard to follow.
And then to get this designation, I mean, the institute is only how old?
99, I think 99.
It's been here about 3 years.
Yeah, just about as long as Sophie has. She was here a little longer than that.
She's the second group of Scott Scholars to graduate.
So, I mean, it's phenomenal to put together a good program anyway, but I would think to garner this, and I'm not trying to blow anybody's horn, but to garner this NSA designation, which will mean National Science Foundation scholarships and other opportunities for students and for the university and for the state and the city, which we'll talk about in a minute, is pretty fun. It's kind of mind-blowing to a lot of people.
Well, they just wanted to really bad. And when you want to, and you have the resources, you can do it. You just got to want to bad enough.
What does this mean to Omaha? We go, oh, this is great, and we're really proud of the strides that the university here is making. Certainly the Peter Kiewit, augmenting some other strides being made on campus. But I don't, and it helps this, the city, it gets our name out and all that. But I don't think people realize that what this designation by the National Security Agency has all kinds, and just the recognition of things you're already doing. It recognizes, has some real concrete effects and benefits down the road.
Absolutely, because what we're looking now at is Omaha, and with the consequence of the World Trade Center attack, there's a lot of companies that are rethinking the locations of their data centers. And these heartland communities like Omaha and Des Moines and Tulsa, Salt Lake City, are going to be very, very carefully considered as premier locations for these big data centers, because it doesn't matter where you put them.
But we know CEOs have always been wooed by a number of factors that don't necessarily mean the middle of the plains.
Right, CEOs are beginning to rethink that whole how you get wooed part. Omaha is extraordinarily highly connected. We have a lot of fiber running through here because of all of the railroads. We have a information technology smart workforce here. We have some very, very strong friends in Stratcom and in the major corporations like ConAgra, Omaha World Herald, First National Bank and the like. We have 10% of the population is in the business of marketing insurance, for heaven's sakes. And this is all an IT intense business community and climate we have here, when we're now going to be able to add into that a heightened awareness of the responsibilities and the issues and the technologies and the capabilities and how you go about doing information security. So now we're not only going to be well connected, very smart, good workforce, but you understand the issues of security. That makes a compelling argument for someone who's looking at relocating a data center, because we bring that additional dimension of awareness and capability to the party.
And I think, and maybe you've experienced this as a student working on some of these projects and theoreticals that aren't so theoretical, that companies are learning that although they have to be totally in control of their security system in the sense that they only know the secret this and that, but they're learning that because of these intruders, these malcontents and evildoers that try to get into our system, that they have to work together as a security force in a community to stay one step ahead. This is no longer my company, and I call security company A, and they give me the latest software, and everything's going to be fine for a while.
Well, it's going to be almost impossible for one person to fight against so many intruders from all over the world. I mean, you really need to pull the strength together of the community to be able to fight something that large.
And if we start with the companies you mentioned in the Stratcom and the people that are willing to brainstorm and try to stay one step ahead of the game, and have this Peter Kiewit Institute that has these new resources piped into it, that would, are you saying then, say for someone that's going to put a big data center in or something, this is the kind of backup I want.
It's a
or environment.
Yeah. I'd liken the model to you bringing the tide to float all the boats. And what we're doing is making the tide come in here with our center and with our students to help everybody be just a little bit better. And a little bit better is the right way to go. You keep getting a little bit better over time. We have, for example, the notion of the sharing issues that you point out, a chapter of InfraGard, which is an FBI encouraged relationship in town. And the idea of that is very simply that if one corporation or one organization begins to feel something going on untoward in the internet, they have a structured way to be able to share that with their peers and their colleagues, with the other owner-operators of big IT centers here, so that everybody can be aware. They can do, well, have you seen this? Have you seen that? How have you dealt with it? And so that quickly you be able to get the synergism and leverage of multiple players and multiple hands working the problem, rather than trying to take it all on yourself.
And it used to be thought that all this, not the details, but that all this sort of these concepts were proprietary. It's not, they're not proprietary to the people out doing them. So it's,
yeah.
I mean, there's certain proprietary security information within a company or whatever. But what I mean is the conceptual thing and the the staying one step ahead, doing the next step or the next configuration or whatever. I mean, people have to at least, there's got to be a community of trust there to a point.
That's correct. Absolutely.
And that doesn't happen overnight either, does it?
No, but it's interesting how that scales. You have to build those trust relationships, and for example, the kids in the dorm, they have built these kinds of trust relationships, so that if something starts to happen with one of their systems, they can go talk to others. We're reasonably confident that the other guy won't come back and hurt them. And it scales all the way up to where you have places like the owner-operators of the big corporations in town have a means by which they can have that same kind of a conversation. And it's absolutely essential. You can't do it yourself.
And that's something you can't buy.
You can't buy, you have to grow it.
Yeah, you have
Those
to
trust
grow it.
relationships, we've tried a lot of form-based, sign your name away here kind of thing. But that just doesn't work. People have to get to know each other. They have to understand that the other guy's going to treat their stuff carefully. And it's like any other kind of trust relationship.
And there's been a lot of talk about moral character and growing good moral character in our young people. And hopefully, I mean, I'm assuming that that is grown in our students at the Peter Kiewit Institute, and your students they have it coming in, and it's grown even more, because it takes a great deal of moral character.
It does.
To be involved in something like this.
And Sophie,
not saints, but moral character.
And Sophie knows this. We don't leave that to chance. Every student that participates in the Information Assurance Program at the Peter Kiewit Institute signs an ethics statement. Right up front says, I know the difference between right and wrong, and I won't do wrong.
You know, when I heard that we had interns out at Stratcom working in their information systems, how do the students feel given this kind of responsibility? Obviously, they're rather proud of it. It builds confidence, but isn't it a little scary?
Scary, yes, but like, I don't know, I think it's so important to get the students started in something good and on the right side of things in information security. I mean, there's definitely a good side and then a bad side that you can go. And giving these people this kind of responsibility, I think it really brings it home that how important it is that they're on the side that's defending our information, not on the side that's attacking our information.
You know, there's keeping people out, and then there's going out to find people, i.e. we hear about the possible terrorists that are working in the internet cafes, and you know they're hopping around, and you know they're talking about going through. There's some found up in Canada, and I mean that. So you got to keep the people out, but then there's a whole bunch of people that are, you know, like the old gumshoes, but they're out.
Yeah.
They're doing the other work, trying to find invaders that are on the run somewhere else, you know, from a different perspective. But the bottom line is, this is no longer stuff that novels are made out of. You know.
Well, there will probably be still more novels
to write.
I mean, I think Tom Clancy is not going to stop writing novels about this kind of stuff.
No, but it's no longer just taking some basic facts and situations and extrapolating into, you know, years from now. I mean, this is all here
the future's
and now.
Yeah. To comment a bit about this going out thing, the gumshoe thing, defending against the intruder is a fairly regularized notion. We do it to varying degrees of goodness or competence, but it's sort of regularized. This notion of going out in the net looking for somebody, that's a horse of an entirely different color. One can find oneself countervening other national laws. One can find oneself in situations that can cause a great deal of damage. And this is something that, fortunately, responsible members of law enforcement are realizing needs to be done with great measure and thought. There was and has been an ongoing debate about fielding what I will loosely call offensive technologies and tools, so that if you have an individual that starts to rattle your doorknob or hack on your web server, that you can launch one of these tools and it has some seriously damaging effects at the other end. The difficulty is you're not sure where the other end is. There's a certain amount of uncertainty in this, and these tools may be in fact illegal in a country that they might appear in.
Or there's a whole body of law that isn't even written
Oh
yet.
yeah, we're just, and that's one of the most interesting things about this is that the technology and the social phenomena that comes with this is happening so quickly that law is having a tricky time keeping up with it.
You know, I used to think that one of the major kind of demonstrations of how our real evolution had not caught up with social evolution was, let's say, the passing of the Civil Rights Act. You sign a law, this is 30-some years ago, you sign a law and it says, we will not discriminate. And, you know, whether you believe it or not, we have to act like a country that doesn't do this. So we know social evolution hasn't entirely caught up with that.
Right.
And I thought that was a pretty big gap between what we're saying has to happen and what really is happening. The gap, you can't even see how wide the gap is when it comes to this.
We're still sorting out a lot of stuff.
Is that part of the, in addition to just worrying about the technology that you have to stay a step ahead on, but just, you know, the moral dilemmas, the legal dilemmas? I mean, you must have some incredible conversations and discussions in your classroom, don't you?
Definitely.
I mean, there's theoretical, there's real, and there's this bizarre hybrid of both.
Well, it's very exciting. There's so much to information assurance nowadays. I mean, it isn't just the technology. You really have to consider all aspects. You have to consider ethics. It's a huge part. You have to consider the laws and what's happening, and it's just so intertwined.
Arthur Anderson isn't involved in this in any way, is it? Oh, just never mind. Very poor aside. But you know, you do have that. But the kind of reason that sort of popped in my mind is that you have guides and you'll have people and there'll be lawyers involved in these companies and law enforcement agencies, and you wonder, who's censoring the censors, who's guiding the guides, and some of these in the future will be our students.
Oh yeah. Some of
You
them
may get a
hopefully-
law degree in addition to that PhD.
Yeah,
or
I'm hoping that some of these in the future will be our faculty. Let me give you an interesting example that just happened today. In my class, I asked my students to bring two news notes about what's going on in this stuff on a daily basis, and we kind of talked through those. And one of the students brought a news note, said that somewhere in Britain they had just, I think it was, I don't want to do that because I'm not sure the attribution, had just issued a new study on passwords. And my goodness sakes, they discovered that people were not doing good passwords. I hope they didn't pay a lot for this.
What's a good word or what's a bad word?
well,
Don't use your birthday.
No,
Don't.
but we did this in 1974. I've got the perfectly fine report from 1974. It says, here's all about passwords, and here's how to get good ones, and here's what bad ones look like. You ought to be smart about passwords. So the point I'm
So
making
how
is...
far are we getting? How fast?
Well, yeah.
on the basic stuff.
The reason that we're doing this, building these academic centers, is for it's a longer conversation, but there's a huge gap in the memory of the technologists about what this business is about. Effectively, we've had amnesia for 25 years. And so what's happening now is you see over and over and over again, people are reinventing the past poorly. And so you have a study on passwords, for crying out loud. I mean, you could paper the walls of this building with studies on passwords. We know that. Don't spend your money there anymore.
Not going to reinvent the
so
wheel,
we're-
not going to
yeah.
cover old territory, waste time.
But
We don't have time to waste.
We can't afford that. And so what we want to make sure in this program is our students learn the fundamentals, and they can build from all the fundamentals rather than the superficial and the kind of the vinyl on the outside. We want to really understand the fundamentals. Then they can go from there.
Well, if people want to find out more about the Peter Kiewit Institute, I'll bet you're online. Being in the information
I think so.
technology. Yes,
I
they have
think
a
so.
wonderful
Yeah.
website
Yeah.
available, and you can go to uno.edu and
Can you get it from
navigate your way there. I want to thank you so much for being with us. Again, we're talking about the designation by the National Security Agency recognizing the University of Nebraska at Omaha's based Peter Kiewit Institute as a Center of Excellence for Information Assurance. Keep it in mind, you'll be hearing more about it. Dr. Blaine Burham, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so
and
much.
Scott Scholar, say that 3 times fast. Sophie Engel, thank you for being with us
Thank you.
today. And remember to join us next week on Consider This. Have a good week.
This program is made possible in part by Nebraskans for Public Television.